Welcome back to the second segment of our discussion. We're still talking the solar system. However, Simpiwe, one of the things that I think comes out strongly is the issue of managing the content. We need to be comfortable as well as competent as far as the content is concerned. In this, during the course of our discussion, what we want to focus our attention on is, the solar system as well as the lithosphere. So, what are some of the concepts and the sequencing maybe that you'd want to think of in terms of managing it very well in class?
I wouldn't like to dwell much in terms of what happens in the classroom, in terms of the formal elements of it. But teachers should definitely be open to involving learners. Because as children play, they start learning. And we should never think that, no, when they get to certain grades, they can't be having these hands-on activities. Because those things have them at least switching their minds on and being open to these things more.
And then the issue of scaffolding the concepts in such a way that there is that element of smooth progression. Obviously we start with the foundation before the roof. What's your take on that?
It's very important, very wonderful use of words. It's very important that we build this good foundation, but also it's very important that these things are relatable to the everyday life of learners. And even when we try to get this information as teachers, we should always be thinking, but how does it actually link to what I know? And then we start migrating to this formal way
not
that is explained
necessarily empty containers coming into class. They have some
exactly.
prior learning experiences.
And they might have understanding, but something might just be off. Whether it's a context-related thing or it's just that it was taught a certain way before. So you're putting it quite nicely that these people already know something. Then it's a matter of engaging them and trying to enrich and try to add on to what they know where they already have a good foundation, but also helping them along in looking at things a bit differently.
Now let's talk the concepts. It's the solar system in its broader sense versus the lithosphere. How then do we create that element of saying, okay, let's understand our immediate environment before we explore, because this is more about exploration. If you can agree with me.
Most definitely. Planet Earth is our habitat, it's our home. We need to manage it the best way we can and maximize on what we have. So I like to, when talking about these things, use analogies quite a lot and also start where we are. So without going into much of the other layers, we're on the ground. And this is the lithosphere, which consists of the crust itself and the mantle. And on the crust is where we find majority of the minerals and things that we mine and we use for.
Which is very relevant in our South African context.
Most definitely.
And it also justifies why the learning, of the lithosphere is done at that level, because it's a huge industry. It's an economic contributor. It's huge. The mining, So, and also, like you've said, the concepts are interwoven. They're kind of interlinked. You want to think of it this way. And we talk of elements, when we teach the basics of chemistry in grade 8 and 9. It's something that we've done already.
You see this, this intricate interlinking of things. Now we talk of planet Earth. And then let us imagine us now flying off from the ground.
We're taking off now.
We are taking off. We get to a distance where we are looking at this object, which is planet Earth. And then we start seeing all the other planets toward the sun, the ones that will be the rocky planets. And then in this direction, we are seeing the gaseous or gassy giants.
We can also take advantage to talk about the composition, of the lithosphere in terms of percentage of particular minerals, which explains why certain mining activities take place at a particular geographic location, to justify that. And already we're talking social sciences in terms of geography.
Definitely, anthropological activities as well. But what's also interesting is that in the context of mining, but also in South Africa, is that we are one of the nations that are very good at this. And now, when talking of the solar system, you have nowadays things called asteroid mining. People are looking into that.
That's a new one for me.
People looking at inhabiting Mars and wanting to know what can we use there.
And maybe one of the big questions that an inquisitive learner would ask is, because remember, we share that some of the colleagues we collaborate. One of them says to us, because science is about inquiry. Maybe the right kind of a learner is not the one who asks the correct question, who gives the correct answers necessarily, but it's the kind of learner who, asks the right questions, that inquisitive. It's a critical component of scientific inquiry. Then there are a lot of misconceptions, what are some of those that come to mind as far as, the solar system is concerned?
A lot of the misconceptions come around the size of the sun, our place in the universe, and the motion. All of these objects are in constant motion. The universe is very dynamic. So people will talk of, you say, let's say planet Earth is moving. How is it moving? Then people start saying it rotates and it revolves. But sometimes, sometimes because of the medium of instruction not being something that everyone is comfortable with, they end up...
It will always be an issue.
Yes, and sometimes they end up... thinking they are interchangeable, these
to
terms,
refer to one and the
or
same thing.
being confused by them. So you have terms like, if it's rotating, it's spinning. If it's revolving, it's orbiting. Then at least the words themselves are different enough for the person to know that, I'm talking about two different things. Which one is this? Which one is this?
Speaking of this, I think it's also another gray area for myself in particular. Can we also use the issue of orbiting, revolving, spinning to justify the occurrence of day and night? Can we?
With that one, yes, most definitely.
Yes.
In the sense that you talk of rotation or spinning.
About an
Yes, on the axis, where planet Earth is doing this. And so there are times when the sections are facing the sun and sections are facing away from the sun. That's when you have the day and night. But also very important is for us to know that sometimes people are confused by the solar system and thinking of the sun simply because it's closest to us and it looks that big. Sometimes they think it's the biggest one. But all it is
it's to do with the relative position.
Exactly. The relative position.
Let's talk about the resources in terms, because I want to believe most of our learners are pretty much, your visual kind of learners. They learn better, and also taking advantage of the issue of technology. What are some of the resources that we can use to try and address such, misconceptions?
Being the technological age that we are in, with smartphones, people can get applications.
Apps.
Apps. Whether it's Sky Maps, for example, Sky Map, Google Sky Map, but also there are others called Sun, Planets and Moon.
What exactly do that one?
All of these are able to, when pointing them in the night sky, they show you what is in that region of the sky, and they give you all these fun facts and information about these objects. Is it like a
telescope of some sort?
It is essentially much like you would be looking up in the night sky and looking at constellations, where you see these particular patterns in the sky made by the stars. But for ease, and like we were talking about visual aids, you might find that they even draw out some of what we have now.
That sense of wonder, I think, because it says to me, if a grade 8 or grade 9 learner can download an app, it essentially says to me that child, the learning experience is not only confined to the classroom, beyond, because what we have to also, recognize as science practitioners, including yourself, is that the modern, the current generation, I think they're very much technologically inclined. So the more we get them, out of social platforms, which has little to do, not that there's anything bad with them. They tend to spend a lot of time on that.
So this technology is there, but instead of using it just that way, they can use it to enrich themselves and add on to the things that they are studying and all of that. But of course, we guide them so that they don't go to some of these other places where things are not as factual as they should be and all of that.
One other misconception has a lot to do with the plate tectonics. I think it's more inclined to your geography.
Or going back to the lithosphere, for example. Yes, there are misconceptions there. Sometimes people just don't really get the sense of it because it's not something you observe with the naked eye. But we've got this technology that we are able to monitor our planet as dynamic as it is over long periods of time.
And fast, for that matter.
Exactly. So over a year, if it moves by about 2 centimeters, at least computers, certain cameras, satellites have been watching
we don't actually get to see the continental drift by the naked eye. Never mind, it does happen.
But very interesting, with plate tectonics, when these plates come together, then you have the friction, which would lead
forces.
the volcano, seismic activity, and all of these things. And those we are able to witness, right? And then people are able to monitor these things, and you have your early warning systems and all of these things.
I want us to talk about the impact of science, in our everyday life, because you're directly touching on natural hazards, which directly affect us, in everyday life. But because of time constraints, we need to pay the bills. After that, we shall talk more on, the recommended resources, the tips that you want to share with the
activities and all of that.
Colleagues, that was it as far as going deeper into the topic and maybe addressing a number of misconceptions that have to do with this section, of our planet Earth and beyond. Hopefully, we take something out of this. But that said, we shall go for a short break. Thereafter, we shall delve much into detail, to get the closing remarks, some of the tips. That said, let's take a short break.